I'm back. Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. We check the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by XCancer. Check them out at xcancer.com. Today I have a special guest. He's a college football Hall of Famer, a former Butkus Award winner as the nation's top linebacker, Nebraska's career all-time sack leader with 29.5 career sacks, and now the University of Nebraska's current athletic director, Mr. Trev Alberts. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great, Adam. How are you today?
I'm good, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join me.
Sure. It's great to be with you.
So just over a year ago, you were named Nebraska's AD. What's it been like being the athletic director at your alma mater, and has it been kind of what you've expected through this first year?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's just such a great privilege and an honor, obviously. I mean, just like you, Adam, I love this place, and this place did so much for me during, really formative years, and I've learned an awful lot. And so every day I come to work, I kind of think to myself, I can't believe that I get to work at the University of Nebraska and work in athletics, a place that I know means a lot to a lot of people. So it's just been such a thrill. It's the greatest blessing that I could have ever imagined. Our family loves it, and just a great honor. It's been a real learning experience. Obviously, we've been about a year, a little more, and there's just been so many changes outside of the traditional getting settled into a new job and working hard to create a leadership team and create expectations and a structure. I mean, you've got those natural sort of things you deal with on a day-to-day basis of managing, a staff of over 300 and 650 student athletes. But, what's really added another dimension for all of us is, the changes in college athletics and name, image, and likeness, and lawsuits and governance changes to the NCAA, and potential changes even at the collegiate level, and all the litigation that's happening. So lots of moving parts, but all in all, it's been an exhilarating experience for us.
So Nebraska's football season starts in just over a week, and it's no secret that it's a big year for Scott Frost. How would you define success for Scott Frost and his coaching staff this year? Is it a certain amount of wins, or is it something else in your opinion that you might be looking for?
Well, obviously, wins are part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a culmination of a lot of things. And, we, as the expectations from year to year here are always very, very high. And so, a lot of the expectations are things that we're already seeing, and really looking forward to getting on the plane on Monday and heading over to Ireland to sort of evaluate our progress. As you know, typically you like to give yourself an opportunity to have a game or two before going into conference. And I know a lot of coaches always say, you learn the most about your team between week 1 and week 2. And so you think you know about your team, and until you get into the sort of live situation where some of your weaknesses can be exposed, not only your players, but also your coaching structure, and then you can make some adjustments. So, we just want to see a well-coached football team that is fundamentally sound. It's aggressive, physical, and I think we're heading in that direction. I think that's what we're going to see when we get to Dublin.
I've always been kind of curious what your relationship with Scott Frost is like, because you're both former players, but there's obviously a boss-employee element to it as well. So what's that dynamic kind of like?
Well, I think, it is interesting in the sense that, we both played here and both have a passion for the place. And I didn't have a relationship with Scott prior to coming here. We all play together, but if our years didn't, sort of match up, then so Scott and I weren't here at the same time. But I think we have a very good working relationship. And, we spent the last year getting to know each other a little bit, and certainly he's getting to know what my weaknesses are. And I don't know, Adam, if he's found any strengths, but
I'm sure he has.
I think we're not in a position, at least from my perspective, with any of our programs to be. This is about business. We're trying to win, and so all of our interactions are about what can we do, what can I do. How do we find a way to pay a bigger price than what our opponents are doing? What's the next strategic sort of advantage? And so when you live in a world of competition where results matter every single day, that sort of drives your interaction, and I'm certainly comfortable with that, and I think Scott is too. We both want the same thing. There'd be nothing that would please the two of us more, than to have Nebraska football competing at a level that's commensurate with our fans' expectations and our history. But that's a long way down the road. We just, we're trying to put the building blocks in place to get there, and a lot of hard work has went into it. We'll have time for different types of fun interaction. Right now, it's just work, Adam.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And obviously, like you mentioned, Nebraska's long-term goals are to compete at a high level, compete for championships again. They brought in a lot of transfers this year, a lot of talented guys, some guys with some experience from other places. Hopefully you see results sooner rather than later. Do you believe the Huskers can get to that point? And we all believe that they can get to that point where they're competing for championships again. And you mentioned it's probably down the road a little bit. But what do you think is a realistic time frame to get to that point where they are competing for championships more often than not?
Well, it isn't going to get any easier, as you can imagine.
Yep.
We've got UCLA and USC coming in 24, and so the level of competition. I think the biggest change that I see from maybe when I played. I know you played a little bit after me, but is it a little bit like when you were in the NFL? I mean, no matter who you played, there's no off week, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no Sunday where you say, well, this is a win. Every single game matters. Every single game takes your absolute best effort. And so that's why we've always talked about these very narrow and thin margins. So I just think that, this is a just systemic climbing, incremental, positive. I think stability helps in leadership, and I'm not just talking about the football coach. I think it's, president levels and others, and I think we have some of that today, and we'll have that moving forward. So I think that's important. But, it's just really hard to, put a timeline on it. I do think the positive thing for us is that with some of these changes, as you mentioned, with NIL and freedom of movement and a transfer portal, those types of things, I think that it can help expedite some of your progress forward. I think, Scott and the staff did a really good job. I think our fans are going to be able to see that, some of the talent that we acquired through the transfer portal is going to really make a big difference. And so I think you have an opportunity to build your team talent-wise maybe quicker than you did, in the late 80s, early 90s, just because of some of these changes. The bigger challenge now, though, is that culture building and cohesion, because you have so much change and turnover. And so that takes, a different sort of focus in terms of leadership. And that's where some of our focus has been at this point. No doubt about it. We've been able to bring in some really talented young men, and now we've got to meld them into a team, and in a short window. But I think we can do it, and I think Scott believes we can do it as well.
Now, Nebraska needs an improved pass rush. Garrett Nelson appears to be poised to have a big season. I think transfer from TCU, O'Shawn Mathis, is going to be fun to watch. You may know a thing or two about getting sacks in college football. What advice would you give the Black Shirts when it comes to getting after the quarterback? It's been a while since they've had a consistent pass rusher, so what advice would you give them on the defensive side of the ball when it comes to that?
Well, you were pretty good at pass rushing yourself, Adam. But I think the reality is it takes more than just one person. And so, while I may have gotten quite a bit of credit for getting sacks, the reality is I had Lorenzo Brinkley and John Reese and guys like Toby Wright and Ernie Beeler and Baron Miles. I mean, we had great defensive backs that did a great job of knowing where to be, and they had great coverage, which allowed the quarterback to hold the ball and gave me a chance to get there. But, I've always just thought that, pass rushing is quite simple. It's just a matter of want to. And you got to find guys that really want to get there. And sure, it helps to have a good first step. Sure, it helps to have some quickness and strength. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to determination and want to. And I'm not sure that, over the past several years, we've always had that. But I agree with you. I think we've got some guys on the team this year that's got some want to. And don't forget about Caleb Tanner.
For sure.
I've seen him really take a step forward as well. And there's some other guys that I was at practice today, watched the one-on-ones, and was really pleased with what I'm seeing. So, it's just hard to tell, though. You're playing against your own team until you get into a situation where you're playing in a live competition against another team. I tell people all the time, sometimes you go through fall camp and you think, man, we've got an incredible defense. And then as the season unfolds, you just learn that, well, we just had a bad offense. So they looked really good in practice because the offense wasn't very good. Or it could be vice versa. That, it looks like we're going to have the scoring explosion. And you get to the season, you realize that your defense was just way behind. So until we get to an actual game and a conference game, I think some of our strengths and weaknesses will become more apparent.
As you mentioned, college football has changed a lot. It's changed since you played. It's changed since I played. What are your thoughts on NIL? What are your thoughts on the transfer portal? Do you think these things are good for college football as an overall whole? I think they're good for Nebraska. We'll see how it comes to fruition this year. I think NIL helps Nebraska because there's a lot of people who back Nebraska, can help bring guys in. As far as the transfer portal, we've been able to hopefully overhaul and change things quickly. We'll see, as you mentioned, how that unfolds this year. But for college football as an overall whole, do you think it's good for the sport?
Well, I do think that it's wonderful for the student athletes that they can benefit from their name, image, and likeness. I really do. And but I think we're sort of in an interim period here where I don't think the current structure of how NIL is approached, and I don't think the current sort of structure around freedom of movement is necessarily sustainable long term. Mm-hmm. So, I look at this as, a move in the right direction that's modernizing some of these approaches to college football. The challenge has been because we just haven't been able, because of concern over collusion and other things, to be able to put the necessary guardrails and protocols around some of these things, which has led to, some of the chaos and uncertainties and discomfort. So it'll probably have to get a little more chaotic before we get to the point where we're able to create some better thinking around it. Mm-hmm. But I'm okay with where we're going. I just think, we need to probably reevaluate a little bit now that we've had a chance. Because at the end of the day, you really want to make sure that we have as many winners that come out of this. And, is it really in the best interest of student athletes to be bouncing from team to team? And clearly they have to have some freedom of movement at the same time. Unfettered, without any sort of controls, really doesn't do, the students justice, and it certainly doesn't help the institutions either. So I think we'll get there. I think as we move forward, there'll be good thinking and leadership around that. It's just that we're not there today.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the wild, wild west right now, but I'm with you. I think eventually they're going to have to bring in some more constraints or boundaries or however you want to phrase it. So one last question for you. It might be the most important question I've asked you the entire time, okay? Are you ready for it?
Sure.
The college football video game is coming back soon. How vital is this to the college football and the sport as a whole? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it is vital. I mean, what young person? I mean, my son was so mad when that game went away. But I think what it does is it helps grow our sport. It grows the fan base. It keeps people engaged. It's sort of an extension of what we just announced this morning. Is our new television partners moving forward with the Big Ten. I mean, it's a way of continuing to distribute your brand and then it, again, now is going to allow our players to benefit directly from their name, image, and likeness. And so I think it's awesome. I think it's great. And it was really sad that college football didn't have that sport. I'm glad it's back.
I'm not going to lie. I played the college football game a lot growing up in college football. And I look forward to being able to play it with my son, who's now 13. So that's something that excites me. So thank you for taking the time.
Able to play you? Like, will your son get to play? Can you be Adam Carriker out there?
Well, we do have the old games. I don't know if the old consoles still work. I'll have to dust them off, make sure they still work. But yeah, so thank you for taking the time to join me. I appreciate it, my friend.
You bet, Adam.
All right, until next time, Husker Nation, go big red, and always remember,
throw the bone.
This show is brought to you by XCancer. Join the fight at xcancerstore.com and support your loved ones, your neighbors, and cancer fighters all over the world and help them gain access to revolutionary treatments. xcancerstore.com has a wide variety of t-shirts and merchandise supporting a wide variety of cancer battles so you can show off the colors that matter. Proceeds from each purchase not only help those at home, but also cancer fighters in Tanzania, Africa. Check them out at xcancerstore.com.